Trading at Schwab is now powered by Ameritrade, giving you even more specialized support than ever before. Like access to the trade desk, our team of passionate traders ready to tackle anything from the most complex trading questions to a simple strategy gut check. Need assistance? No problem. Get 24/7 professional answers and live help, and access support by phone, email, and in-platform chat. That's how Schwab is here for you, to help you trade brilliantly. Learn more at schwab.com/trading.
Lucky Land Casino, asking people, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
Lucky? In line at the deli, I guess?
Aha, in my dentist's office. More than once, actually.
Do I have to say?
Yes, you do.
In the car before my kids' PTA meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Excuse me, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
I never win and tell.
Well, there you have it. You can get lucky anywhere, playing at LuckyLandSlots.com. Play for free right now. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Thanks for tuning into our podcast. We love having you here, and it's our mission to bring you all the latest and greatest tips, skills, and know-how to make you the best that you can be. We know that you have it in you, and we're going to show you how. Now, let's get started.
This episode is powered by Poddex.
Thank you for tuning in today. You are now listening to That Will Never Work podcast with your host, Maurice Chisholm. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for tuning in today. I have a fantastic show for you today. We really gear ourselves to our startup community, to our individuals that need that motivation. And today, this individual today, he's going to help us with clarifying, simplifying, and growing our businesses, and helping us to identify some of our roadblocks that we come across. He has been in business for over 27 years in trade, service, and retail. You can listen to him on the Simplifying Entrepreneurship podcast. And I just want y'all to know, before I bring him to the stage, I had gone to his website, and there is a test, an assessment test that I encourage each and every one of you to take. It really helped me assess where I am today, even though I've been in business for 10 years, but it has truly enlightened me about where I need to go over the next 10 years. Today, he's going to talk to us about his 5P's model of turning your entrepreneur frustrations into freedom. And I introduce to you the dynamic speaker and author and business person, Mr. Pete Mohr. Mr. Pete, thank you very much for coming on today.
Thanks so much, Maurice. It's an absolute pleasure to be here, and you're doing the introduction. You say 27 years, and I'm thinking back, going, "Oh my God, I'm old." I don't feel old. I mean, I'm 51, but at the same time, you were saying before we hopped on, and you said there too, you're getting ready to celebrate your 10th.
Yes.
And I'm thinking, gosh, man, I'm not too far away from my 30th. But you know what? Entrepreneurship, Maurice, is such a fun ride, and I wouldn't have changed a thing, and I don't have any plans on retiring. I mean, I love what I do, and I'm excited for our conversation today.
Oh, I am too. I'm inspired because as you heard me say, I've only been in for 10 years. And that's because as soon as I graduated high school, I did go into the corporate America space. And I realized that there were some things that were holding me back. I was not happy in that space. And I procrastinated, if you will, in starting my own company. And as I had taken a look at your website and I assessed where I am and where I have come from, I'm like, wow, I've grown a lot. I really have.
Love it.
And I would like for you to explain to our listeners today just your own journey through all of that and where how did you get to where you are right now?
Yeah, well, it's like you said, 27 years. I started out of business school and bought a franchise. And because it was I knew about business. I had little businesses through school and stuff like that. But I bought a franchise and a bathroom renovation company, and we did that. And I had that for 15 years. And at the same time, I ran that and built it to a multiple truck operation and different guys out there doing stuff, what have you. I also bought a cleaning franchise, and that cleaning franchise had 30 customers, and we built it up to 300 customers, and then we sold it. So I ran those simultaneously. I was a business broker helping people buy and sell businesses, and that's where I found one of the businesses that I still own, which is called Shoetopia, and we own a couple of shoe stores in Ontario here. I live about an hour outside of Toronto, for those of you that know where Toronto is in Canada. We still own and operate the shoe stores. In fact, I'm sitting outside one now as we're having this conversation.
Nice. Okay.
But I spend probably 75% or 80% of my time working with other entrepreneurs and everything to do with simplifying entrepreneurship these days, and maybe 20 or 25% of my time with the shoe stores, because ultimately, I've got great people, great systems. They run in a turnkey manner that I don't necessarily have to be there very much, because I've got things in order, and that's what I coach to predominantly, Maurice. It's around, let's get things in order so that you can actually do what you love to do. And I love to talk with guys like you and with people like your audience about business and growing business and how to sort of turn those frustrations into freedoms.
And so how do you do that using this 5P model?
Yeah, well, I created this model. I'm writing this book right now around this, and it really all starts with knowing what your promise is to your clients, because without clients, we have no business, right? So, it really starts, and a lot of people have an idea and they've kind of worked a little bit on it, but not a lot of people have spent a lot of time really digging down into the promise. And, I'll give you, just because we're short of time, but we'll give you a little framework on developing the promise. And it goes like this. What's the problem you solve? So what is the problem that your client has? And then what's your solution? So your unique solution that's unique to you and unique to them, that's going to solve that problem so that they can live a better life. So when you think of it, what's their problem? What's your solution? And what are the results you're going to deliver? So, it sounds simplistic, but a lot of times one of those three areas isn't answered in your promise. And it's really kind of interesting, because if you don't have full alignment with that, you're creating confusion. And when there's confusion, not only to your clients, but to your team and to your wholesalers and suppliers, and nobody really truly knows what the promise is. So, what's the number one job of entrepreneurs, do you think, Maurice?
As you listen to a whole bunch of coaches and consultants and things like that, I think that what you're asking is not always clear, because everybody wants you to focus on various things for that moment, for the climate and all those type of things. So it's hard to say exactly what is that one thing, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, clarity is a huge piece of an entrepreneur's job, is to create clarity and to structure their communication to everybody around the clarity of the promise.
Right.
And because when everybody has the clarity, decisions can be made easy and simple. And you know what? That's where confusion happens, when people are wondering what to do. And if we can make their job so simple that and so clear that decisions can be made at the lowest level of the organization, then everything seems to run along really, really nice, and it's just, life is better for everybody involved. So it really all starts with knowing what that promise is, creating clarity all around it, communicating it, so that everyone in the organization and everyone who's involved in your promise can get their decision in a faster, more simplistic way. Does that make sense?
Oh, no, that makes total sense. And just real quick, just to piggyback off of that for a moment, before we met, you made a good point in our communication that, why should everyone be able to recite your mission in your business? And I think if things like that, little things like that, your mission, your vision statement, things like that, if those things are not clear, then we cannot ultimately fulfill the promise, not just to our clients, but even to ourselves.
Exactly. It's all part of it, right? That's the whole sphere of influence. When we get to that people portion, the fourth P, we'll talk about a little bit around there, but I break those down into 3 different areas. You have your ideal client, you have your team, and you have everybody else that helps deliver your promise. And if they don't have the clarity of what the promise is, well, we've got some issues. And sometimes there's misalignment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes one of those portions do and others don't. And so what I call the guiding principles, which include the mission, the vision, your key characteristics, your critical actions that you're doing in the business, your sort of your one-liner, your theme, all of that sort of stuff has to be clear and lived and communicated all the time. And that's why we start with promise.
So let me ask you this. Do you believe that the promise can change every 5 years or so? And here's the reason why I'm asking. Depending on who you've been taught under, what school you've gone to, business school, sometimes they talk about how your business plan changes and evolves over a 5-10 year lifespan, if you will. So do you think that it's possible people can lose their sight of their promise as they're trying to revamp and re-energize themselves?
Most definitely. And the last 2 years has been a prime experience of that.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's been a lot of businesses in the last 2 years that have had to change their promise because they couldn't deliver the promise in the way they always have. Right? Because of uncontrollable factors. And those uncontrollable factors mean COVID, right? So are there things that disrupt? Are there things that ultimately, force your hand of change?
Mm-hmm.
Well, there are. And if you're not able to maneuver your promise in order to accommodate that, then you'll lose your business. So, do I think it's possible to change your promise and all of that stuff? I think as business owners, there's never a perfect promise. There's never a perfect anything as business owners.
Right.
We're always trying to perfect.
Right.
So we're always looking to improve and to tweak and to do a little bit. But that doesn't mean you should do an about face just to do an about face because you're bored. That's the wrong attitude, right?
Right.
A lot of entrepreneurs do that, and that's not necessarily what we're talking about here.
Right. So as people are trying to re-energize and revision their businesses, can you give us like one example of a frustration that they could be going to or through that you might teach them to maneuver through, if you will?
Yeah, for sure. So, one of the biggest ones that I deal with, quite honestly, Maurice, is the frustration around time, in that they're working, 50, 60, 70, 80 hours a week, and
Mm-hmm.
they just can't get out of this time bubble, right? And it's
Right.
like, I don't have my life. I want my life back.
Mm-hmm.
I want my relationships back. I haven't seen my family. Those kind of things happen, right? So when we work through this, again, we align the rest of these P's, and the P's are, so we start with the promise, and I'll give them to you quickly, and we can delve into the ones you think are most important. But it starts with the promise. The next one is the product or the service, if you offer a service, right? And then the next one is the process or the systems involved in your business, right? And then the one we touched on already is people. And once you have full alignment with the product that's delivering the promise, the processes that are delivering the promise, the people that are delivering the promise and enjoying the promise from the client side of you, then we get the profit. And that's where you can start as the entrepreneur and leader of the business. When you start reaping some of the profits, it enables you to have some of your freedoms, and those freedoms are uniquely yours, and anything you want is okay to do with those profits. That's your deal because you're the owner of the business.
Right.
So some people would hire more managers so they have more time. Other people might start a new business because that's what they want to do with it. Somebody might buy a triplex because they want some rental properties. I mean, it doesn't matter what you do. That's uniquely yours because you now have the freedom to do what you want to do with the profit because you've aligned your product to your promise, your process to your promise, and your people to your promise. And when you have that full alignment and it's fully communicated, life gets easier, decisions get done, and you have more time.
I'm going to tell you, Pete, that was inspirational for me because sometimes in these 10 years, I will say that I lost my promise, and that's because I wasn't always focused. I was focused on the wrong things. And sometimes, like most individuals, you get so caught up on the profit and concerned about the profit that you lose your original promise of helping people, solving the problems, things like that. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of us as entrepreneurs, especially those that are starting out, we get too lost on the profit side.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, the reality of it is the profit comes when you complete the promise. Mm-hmm. So if you're a coach like me and one of the things that you want to get back is time back. Well, if I can give you 5, 10, 20 hours back a week, give you, 250 or 1,000 hours back a year, because that's what we're going to work on, then I've delivered my promise. And if I can do that consistently, then the profit will come because word gets around that you're the person that delivers the promise, right? Mm-hmm. And so the alignment there, all of your marketing, everything you do should be in full alignment with whatever your promise is. And, once you have that kind of stuff, the profit comes. It's when you start veering off of this. It's when you start, not aligning your processes. Processes and systems are such a big piece of this puzzle, Maurice.
Right.
When you look at that, it's really aligning those things, making sure that you've, as one of my coaches says, Ari Meisel, you optimize them, you automate as much as you can, and then you outsource the rest in order to deliver that, in a most efficient way, because people want things cheaper, faster, mm-hmm. more efficient. Mm-hmm. They want better experiences, mm-hmm. all of those things. So you have to be delivering your promise in all of these ways. And that's where we're talking about perfecting the solutions, right? Yes. Because things change. I mean, everybody, I've been on Zoom for years, but a lot of people were never on Zoom until 2 years ago, right? Right. So, but now Zoom's a way of life, digital communication, that way is a way of life. Well, there's not as many people flying around for business anymore because you can get business done online. I coach. Almost all of my coaching clients are in the States. I live in Canada. I've never even met them in person, but I meet them all the time on Zoom. And, from that perspective, it's really just things change. And so the delivery, the process of me delivering my service has changed because I do that digitally now. So you just have to think about these different ways and what's better and how can you work it so that it's even easier to do business with you and they get their result even quicker and in a more efficient way, because that's what they want. Everybody wants that because everybody buys a future, right? And that's getting back to this idea of what's the problem, what's your solution, and what does their life look after? Because if anybody's going to actually part their money to do business with you, and it doesn't matter what you're doing, they want to see their future as being better because that's the trade-off for the money that they're about to part with.
Pete, I'm going to tell you, this has been a true enlightening moment for me. It really has, because it, as I stated, I had gone to your website and just doing a reassessment for myself and trying to understand how to keep my promise to my clients, my current clients, because they're falling. A lot of them are falling off based off of finances and their own visions and things like that, and sometimes, and that's one of the reasons why I asked you, can the promise change? Because of the climate that we're in, and so I truly appreciate what you're saying to me, most definitely, Pete, and I'm hoping those that are listening to us today, have taken in a lot, because you said a mouthful today. Most definitely. Most definitely. And I want people out there to be encouraged because of the climate that we're in. it's not going to be as difficult as you think to pivot and refocusing what you're trying to get accomplished. Pete, I thank you very much for jumping on with me today.
It's been a pleasure, Maurice. I mean, I love talking business, as we started off with, and always happy to do it. Would love to do it again with you sometime.
Sure. So, Pete, one thing that I do before I let every person go, I have one question. It's a would you rather question. And so, would you rather face a fork in the road or be forced to pick between 3 doors?
That's an easy one for me. Fork in the road every time.
Okay.
So the reason I'm an entrepreneur is because I don't like to be forced to do things.
Okay.
So
That's funny.
That's why I'm an entrepreneur, because I get to choose what I want to do, right?
Right.
And who I work with and how I align stuff. And it's like, so I'll take my choice of picking left or right in the fork in the road over somebody telling me, hey, boom. So so I'll always take that. And I'm good at doing frameworks and thinking about stuff, and I'm good at sort of figuring, I guess, as I call it, ideating and postulating. But you can only ideate and postulate so long. There's a time to activate, and that's when you have to pick your lane. And you know what, Maurice? I've picked some wrong lanes.
Yes.
And over my entrepreneurial career, and I own them. And some of them have been hard, right?
Mm-hmm.
And those are the learning lessons. And so long as you don't pick that lane again next time, because that's just dumb if you do that. But but along the way, it's like working through these things. That's by coming up with these choices and having to do what you have to do. When you have clarity, those choices become easier again. And I think when we go through these processes and listen to these conversations and read these books and all this stuff that's out there, I mean, there's a multitude of information out there, and all of it's helping you make the decisions that are uniquely yours, that are going to help you in your life. And our businesses, here's one of the things. If you're a business owner, you own your business, and it shouldn't own you, right? So you own your business. It shouldn't own you. And if you're feeling that it owns you, then it's time to make some change.
Most definitely. I appreciate these nuggets, and I hope all of you are appreciating what Pete is dropping on us today. Most definitely. Well, Pete, thank you very much for your time, man.
It's been a pleasure, Maurice. I loved it. Thanks for having me.
I did too. So make sure y'all follow him. So, Pete, before we leave, let them people know where they can find you.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for introducing it at the beginning of the show. SimplifyingEntrepreneurship.com is my website. And the assessment that Maurice was talking about, you just go to the site and click the button, take the assessment. It's a couple of spots on the website. You'll be easy to find it. And I'm on LinkedIn the most at Pete Mohr, so Petemohr. You'll find me on Instagram too at Pete Mohr. I think it's Pete Mohr Coach on Instagram. So happy to chat with anybody. And if you take the assessment, I'll get back out and we'll have a little chat around what sort of came of that. As Maurice, already, it's like a 50 or 60 page document that it spits back to you. So it's pretty substantial for about a 10 or 12 minute assessment.
And for those of you that are willing to take the assessment, please be honest. I had to learn that for myself as I was reading it and going through it. And I like it's very interactive and makes you think about an airplane. So I'm just going to get that little tidbit out there. It's an airplane.
Yeah, that's it. You got to make the airplane fly, Maurice. You don't want it to fall, right?
Right. But I think that was a very good touch. So I encourage any and everybody to take that assessment.
Thanks so much, bud.
Sure, no problem. Thank you very much. And see y'all next episode.
Loved what you've heard on this week's episode? Well, the answer is simple. It would mean the world to us if you could head over to iTunes and leave us a 5-star review and feedback. Spreading the word really is the best way to grow our podcast and achieve even greater things. Thank you.
Okay, round two. Name something that's not boring.
A laundry? Ooh, a book club. Computer solitaire, huh?
Ah, oh, sorry, we were looking for Chumba Casino. That's right, ChumbaCasino.com has over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.